Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, and we're going to talk about how Dungeon Masters perceive themselves, and some of the silliness that's still happening, and some of the stuff we have to shed. Alright, so, I think there's this, so who can be a Dungeon Master? This is a big question, right? And there's the stock answer that both, I think, the Wizards of the Coast is saying, and the D&D community is saying. We have a desperate need for good Dungeon Masters. We have a lot of good Dungeon Masters. I'm not convinced at all that we have a lot of good Dungeon Masters. And there's this question now of who could be a Dungeon Master. So Wizards of the Coast, they got their answer ready. Anybody can be a Dungeon Master. Also, I think the D&D community has fully signed off on this, right? And I think this is pure and utter crap. I think it's completely wrong. The only people who can be Dungeon Masters are people who have currently, as the game is structured, okay, are people who have high literacy and have high confidence, period. You know what? I don't even think you need to have high confidence. You just need confidence. People who have high literacy and people who have confidence, okay? Why, literacy, you got to read 750 pages if you're going to be a good Dungeon Master. Let's stop pretending. That's a reality. You can dance around it all you want. That's a reality. And guess what? For a lot of people, 750 pages of rules is a ton. It is high literacy demand. I think a ton of people want to deny that. It's a cold, hard fact. We're supposed to be relying on science, right? Well, 750 pages. People who don't have high literacy ain't going to read that, especially rule books, period. End of sentence, right? The conversation's over, debate's done, okay? Confidence. You need confidence to Dungeon Master. You need to be able to jump into the skin, into the mind, into the identity, into the voice, into the cadences of any character on a planet at will. Like, come on, like, it's hard. You need to track multiple plots. You need to track branching plots, right? Like, you need to have confidence. Pretending this isn't true is not helping anyone. You need confidence, right? Now, what if you don't have confidence? You can go get it. Really, it's not that hard. Like there are tons of ways to get confidence. Read a book, find a video on YouTube. Now I think a lot of people have it naturally, but I definitely get that people don't have it, right? Now, why am I saying you have to have confidence? Well, one, Twitter, right? I see all the time. There are 10,000 tweets right now that you can go find of people saying, I have to DM this week. I'm so nervous. I have imposter syndrome, and I'm really not feeling good about it, right? And I'm like, this is unfair, man. Like, this should not be happening, right? Like, people told these people that anybody could be a DM, and then they got in the middle of it and realized, oh, man, this is insanely difficult, and only a very small number of people should do this. And if you're going to do it, right, you'd better do your homework, and you'd better transform yourself, right? And it doesn't help people. I feel terrible seeing these people who are, in my opinion, tricked and told anybody can DM, and then they get in the middle of it, and it turns into tears and flames, and they're surprised, right? So basically, we have all this going on, right? And one of the things that happens is you have the Wizards of the Coast. There's no mystery why they say it, right? It's commercial. They want people to believe that anybody can do it because so that it's open and accessible, right? So they have an excuse, okay? The D&D community, same thing. They so desperately want good DMs to come in that they're willing to spout this. It's a falsehood. I don't want to say it's a lie because I don't think they're trying to hurt anybody by saying it. I literally think they're trying to help people up. And I would ignore it if I didn't see the proof on Twitter that this is harming people's mental health, right? They thought that they could do it. They get in there and they're just absolutely swamped with expectations of their players, and players will have huge expectations now more than ever because the expectation is Matthew Mercer, right? The expectation was high before. You had to be a good DM before. Now the expectation is world-class actor genius, right? So yes, and you're going to see some frowns or some suppressed smiles. And if you don't have confidence, you are going to be crushed, right? And you're going to be on Twitter next week saying that you're worried, and you should be worried, right? Because you're not Matthew Mercer, and you don't have confidence, right? Like, and you were tricked into doing this before you're ready. If you don't have confidence, you got no business in the DMC, in my opinion, right? Now I definitely agree that you should just go get it. Don't let that stop you. go get confidence, bolt it onto your frame, and move forward, right? And I'm totally for that. I think Dungeons and Dragons is a transformative activity. It makes people bigger and better and bolder than the person they were before. It certainly did that for me. No two ways about it, right? It's yes, absolutely. So, but when I think about this, right, the other reason I think that the D&D community says it, a lot of DMs say this, because they say it's easy, it's okay, it's easy. But these people are coming out of, they're saying this when they have just a huge amount of skills that average people don't have, right? And they're not really realizing how epic they are. The people who are dungeon masters right now are the smartest, most creative, most charismatic people on the planet. I'm convinced of this, right? And honestly, I'll tell you right now, Dungeons and Dragons makes dirt. It makes like $130, $125, $150 million a year. It makes nothing, right? Like one yacht costs that, right? But the reality is the true value of Dungeons and Dragons is the people who are playing it. The data alone. Everybody who DMs is going to end up being a mayor or a librarian or a doctor or a lawyer or, some, tech whiz, and they're all going to make six figures plus. They're all going to break their worlds. Like, they're going to break everything around them, right? And reform it, right? And this is the part that we don't get, right? And so I hear really strange things, like, said by dungeon masters. And, so I got this was prompted by two things I heard this week. One, I was listening to Jenny D. I love her channel so much. Get over there. She's fantastic. Subscribe to her. I think she's the most unique voice in Dungeons and Dragons. She's the most unique voice talking about Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition right now, and that includes me. She's a fantastic channel, right? This week, Ginny, listened to her video, and she says, "I'm an introvert." And I was like, "What? What are you talking about?" Right? Like, you have green hair and you do cosplay at conventions. In what world is that an introvert? Like, those are the most extroverted activities on the planet. Like, what are you talking about? And again, it's just like, it's what she's telling herself, right? And I think a lot of DMs are like this. They're like, "Oh, it's easy. Anybody could do this." They ignore the fact that they've aced, that they came out valedictorian, that they're super smart, they got 100 books on their shelves, right? That they're highly literate, that they have been in, community theater and do, public speaking on demand, right? Like, every DM is like this nested force of nature, right? And Jenny D is I'm an introvert. Are you? But our perceptions of ourselves, we try to tell these things that we try to tell ourselves that we're small. We're not. It's just not true, right? And we need to be careful, because this idea of telling others, when we have all these nested skills and we pretend we don't, and we say anybody can roll in and do this, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely absurd, right? The game is born out of the books, right? And there's tons of them, and there's huge complexity, and there's arbitrary complexity in it, right? The last one is, I saw Joe Rogan this week, and he said he was talking with Breaking Point, which is Crystal, and they used to be on the Hill. They're very good journalists, right? And so basically, Joe Rogan's on this podcast, and he's talking to these two people, and he said, "You know what? I got incredibly lucky, right? My success is I got incredibly lucky. News Radio booked me right out of the gate. They saw me, and they just were like, 'You're in,' right? And Fear Factor saw me, and they said, 'You're in.' And I got so lucky with these two things. And I was like, you are out of your mind. Why are you saying this, right? They didn't get lucky. They saw that you were a megastar, right? Like, saw early that you were going to break the world, right? And reform it in your own image, right? And they saw and now Joe Rogan is he has become one of the top sports commentators in the world. He is known for being successful in comedic acting. He is known for being successful in long-form journalism. He has crushed it in 3 separate industries. But he says, "Oh, I got lucky." He didn't get lucky. They saw the talent that was inherent in him, right? There was no luck in any of it, right? It was right there. So we really need to be careful. We don't want to discourage people from trying to stretch themselves. But this is like skateboarding. You start to learn. You're going to fall. You're going to lose some teeth. You're going to be blood on your elbows and your knees, man. And we need to stop pretending this isn't the case. If you think I'm wrong, just go look over and look on Twitter. That's my take. I'd love to hear yours. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.